I have some points right now about the term enslavery. Many points, points that we need to cover so that others wouldn't just assault and accuse without evidence. Many points that we need to cover to see what's happening right now in the Middle East and to expose the liars. There is a respectable human beings originally from Africa who have the United States of America the nationality. So they are in a country for immigrant from the first place. They are, I'm not going to say neglecting, but they are not focusing on the terrible history that the African have dealt with in a country that was built America, immigrants. Yes, there is the case of the natives Americans who before used not to worship anything God. They used to do some, with due my great respect to their culture. They faced also some problems. They resisted. It's not a center of religion, America, or something like this. Now, America is the most powerful country on planet Earth. It's a very well-known country. It's a known, well-known. Even children knows about America. It is powerful and things like that. Yani we need to make consideration to all things before. But the point is, Africans, they are neglecting or they are not focusing on what happened to the African. The way they are focusing on the accusation, the wrong accusation against Muhammad, peace be. Of course, those African are crusaders, nothing to do with the Messiah. Crusade. I mean, this is my opinion. If you're an African and coming in complaining from racism, I would like to say this, and I think I have the right to say it. I have the right to say it. That if you are relating yourself to the cross, and you're an African person, I would like to tell you, and I have explained about this, that you are representing or showing a figure of racism, and you're accepting. I can go to the Romans and how the Romans. I have explained about this point. I don't want to return back to it. So the cross itself is considered a racist figure. Yes, I understand. So many would say it's not the truth. You're not saying it. I understand. But as an African, taking this cross, which is a figure, represent the racial discrimination about the natives since the Crusaders, who are white, mainly. And do you see? I can go to many points, but I don't want to. This is not the topic. And you're coming with the cross. I mean, you represent. It definitely have nothing to do with the Messiah, Son of Virgin Mary, who is not a god, just a messenger, a high-rank messenger. I have explained about this. But the point is, you're an African, and I had a dialogue. Imagine this in the comment in the YouTube. And look at this lovely gentleman, African gentleman, who's a so-called Christian crusader. What did he say? He said, even in Saudi Arabia, there used to be slaves at the 60s, or the 50s, I think. 60s. This person thinks that the enslavery in Saudi Arabia is exactly similar to the enslavery in America, which was a civil war in relation to it before centuries ago. He do not know that when King Abd Faisal came, King of Saudi Arabia, came and said, I cannot be accepted in the United Nations as a chair for Saudi Arabia, except if there is no enslavery whatsoever, sort of enslavery in Saudi Arabia. There was no resistance. Each tribe had a group of black people. These black people used to be called Al-Abid. Now, the Arab used to deal, why they start calling them the Al-Abid? And I'm talking about after 14th century, since Muhammad. Now we need to go to another point. In Quran, there is only instruction about liberating slaves. Quran. I'm talking about Quran now. In Quran, the whole Quran from A to Z, you will not find anything about slavery except the instructions that is asking you as a human being to liberate slaves. That's the point. Now, in the hadith, there is rules, and I have explained about it. When it's come to women who should be enslaved, men who should be enslaved, or whatever. At the time of Muhammad, the cousins and nephews and tribes did not make stocks enslaved people. This is the lie, the rubbish. No, it didn't work this way. There is a woman who she was a daughter of a big sheikh. She didn't accept Islam. They didn't enslave her. They chopped her head off. And I agree with what they do. Because you're a daughter of a sheikh, you want the old laws to continue. The old laws that enslaved even women and made them less than a sheeps. When did they kill her? After the death of Muhammad, when she announced herself as a messenger. And guess what? Her message from God is to return everything back the way it used, so that the monarchs would enslave everyone. The women within the monarch would live the high living, and those who are commons continue being, even if they are from the tribes, continue living in a disaster. Women are almost like less than a sheep. So why they killed her? They didn't kill her because she said this. No, because there is a lot of men who left Islam, and they killed based on the sheikha, yani sheikha, or the leadership. They killed so many Muslim believers. She resisted until the end. She doesn't want any equality. She was a racist woman, racist after Muhammad, and they entered the place. It's almost like a tent or something, like not a tent, and also dusty house, small castles and things like this, buyutin, but big qal'a or something. And the companion said, "There is no mercy to someone like you who did all of this bloodshed, all of this bloodshed." And he just took her head and blessed him. Bless he is. Now, because she's a terrible woman, she's like those who kill their. There is a lot of executed women all over the world. Maybe better than her. Some of them, okay, who killed others, or kill police officers, or do some bad things, or kill their parents, or kill their children, or kill their other. Like this is that Australian, two ladies, Australians in Saudi Arabia, killed another Australian nurse. And because my God, my father is working in the Air Force, and the hospitals are related. They said that the nurse that was killed from Australia by this other two Australian nurse in Saudi Arabia was an angel. They were not killed, they were sent back to Australia, okay? So there was no slavery at the time of Muhammad, because the environment does not accept this, even after his death. The slavery happened in Egypt, in Iraq, and in Assyria. When these armies and these lords, dictator lords, didn't submit, didn't accept, and people accepted Islam easily, and women who used to work as comfort women. It's a terrible environment for women. Do not maybe have parents, live the terrible dark life. These women, mainly comfort, are assigned to be slaves. Okay, this is a good point here. Okay, I think maybe I'm not good in explaining, but what I explain, not based on my opinion, is representing light and the instruction of God and the light of God. God is the final decision maker. It's not only this woman. There is other, like Musallam al-Kadhab. All those sheikhs, every one of them start saying that I'm a messenger. Everyone, all of them. There is slavery at the 60s. When King Faisal said, "I don't want any slavery," he didn't give it like he said, "We don't want any slavery, so go and talk to the sheikhs of the tribes, and the tribes that we don't." Almost, you can say, almost all blacks are slaves. Now, slaves, the term slave is for servant. When they used to be enslaved in Africa by the African themselves and then sold to others, they used to come and they're saying, "If you want Habib, slaves, come and pick some and some." And Arabs used to say, "We want servant. Better for me to bring a man with his wife, or a man and then give him a wife, a black, or also sometimes other, not only black." And they become part of the tribe, except they are the Abid. They are the Abid. The tribes who roll the desert, the tribes who do exactly what the slaves are doing, except the slave is additional number. And the slaves are more to be controlled than other. For example, now people would say, "What do you mean controlled in slavery?" In slavery is bad, yes. You need to go and check on your history. But they used to live almost like king and queens in the Arabian Peninsula in comparison to the slaves in Africa itself, or in America, or other part of the West, or in the whole world. If you have a slave, the slave mainly won't leave you for another tribe. He won't attack you, the slave, because he have no one. Do you think he will return back to Africa? No. He know you. Treat him good. So all tribe used to show a great care for the slave. Why? Loyalty. Some of those black used to fight. In the tribe's law, you don't attack slaves, by the way. If you attack slaves and kill a slave, you are a lower. You are lowering. This is how it is. You're lowering your position. So you protect, and you ask, where is, for example, your leader? And sometimes they don't tell the African. And sometimes they, and you can see and you can find when you study all of the history, and I'm not lying, that there is a big portion of stories of loyalty among those Abid to the Sheikh. So the Abid is not assigned to someone. When King Faisal said we don't want slaves, it took maybe a week to settle everything. They went to this sheikh. My grandfather, my name is Tariq Sultan Saud, used to have a family, in Adel as well, families. But they're not slaves the way you think. They're almost like servant. You understand me? But they are settled there. Right now, there is a lot of respectable gentlemen who are from Sudan, for example, who go and work in sheep. They go with the sheep and things and farming. They live worse life than, but yet they have this payment which they send to their family. But they are single there. I mean, they don't feel absolutely. But the slave used to live as they are forever there. You understand me? You understand me? Now there is change happening right now, and the racism start to show itself from the black themselves against the natives. I'm not exaggerating. I'm not saying all. So you understand me? If you want to focus on George Floyd. Look what happened to George Floyd not before centuries. The world cried for George Floyd just last years. Look what happened to the man. Disrespect. This is unacceptable. What happened to George Floyd? That's it. In America and other parts, people are complaining. There is racism against the black, and we can see it especially in America. But in Saudi Arabia, the police officers in Saudi Arabia, among them black, who kill those who are called terrorists. Now this is another topic to explain the racism against the natives. Now let's return back. So in slavery, it means that you are servant. These people were shown disrespect in the Africa itself, and they were enslaved by the African themselves, and maybe some took advantage. Okay, and they were brought. There was no chains. Maybe at the beginning, when they arrive by the Africans themselves, there is chains. But when they enter the Ishmaelian territory, there is no chains. You want to leave me? Until now, unfortunately, because it's a cultural thing. So I'm giving you a lot of information. Many call the blacks Abid. Now, Abid in Arabic is a term said slaves, because Abid means servant for them. It doesn't mean servant. But when I say that there was no resistance, I mean, at the time, they are telling me, I was not. King Faisal said, we shouldn't have slaves. They said, be my guest. Fine. You mean that I must not call them Abid? Fine. And how much for each single one or family of this amount? Give me the money. They are no longer Abid. But do you think that the blacks said, oh, we will leave? No. I mean, I remember my father, Sultan, in the Air Force, though of course, with decades, our finances going down because of the occupation. And Al Saudi is an agent. She used to come, and I swear by God Almighty, there is a wonderful woman, a black wonderful woman, used to be from those servant slaves of our family. And she said, I want a job for my son, Sheikh Sultan. And he said, I am not the Air Force captain or leader. I cannot. He brought her for herself, and Allah is my witness, a meal, a full sheep, just in respect to her. She was an old woman. And I said, I cannot offer you except some direction. And unfortunately, know about, because the Mubarak family are like Al Maktoum, you understand me? And Al Saudi, but imagine if Al Nahyan in Abu Dhabi, Emirate, destroyed all sheikhs and become the way Saud House are right now. This is allowing a lot. I mean, there is slaves there. I don't want to mention servant. I mean, the royal monarch used to until now do a lot of crimes against one of. I mean, look what happened in England. Some of the prince, he's gay, having sex with his slave, and this black person, no more. This black gentleman, Saudi, used to be, and he killed him, even here in England, and they deported him, and he was back. This is the slavery right now that even the West is helping by the agents against us. Someone would say, Tariq, so do you? Listen. If someone is have a bad, if you are a person with bad intention, this is 15 minutes. I'm talking a lot. I know. You will say, bad, terrible. No, no. There was no real slavery. This is part 2 of my video. There was no real slavery. No real slavery. Until now, unfortunately, if they say a black person, they call him abd. They don't mean that he is a slave. No, abd is the word for the black. It's wrong because there was no treatment for things. You will say, why those natives? At the same time, the blacks, though they used to live, they are calling the native Arabs Ishmaelians, and Israelis among them. Do you know what they call them? Badu. Even if they are living in desert. Badu means those who wander the desert. We are not wandering the desert. This is how it is. I mean, even here, I'm putting videos, I'm trying to fix things. Yeah, I'm trying because there is problems that you cannot imagine in the Ishmaelian territory. And you're adding it if you're outside criticizing for the wrong reasons, starting from the so-called Israeli state, Gohemic Jewish, Gohemic Jewish occupiers, and Iranis, the Persian who are occupying Baluchistan and Ahwazistan, and from the Crusaders' result, the West, Gog and Magog, Russia, criticizing for of course, the so-called Hindus and the so-called Buddhists taking advantage, definitely, and helping in this disaster cause, and many things. So they are calling the native Arab, and at the same time, the black are called Tursh because they are coming from outside. This Tursh, which means came from. I'm explaining to you, and native Arab are Badu, and everyone say Badu, their culture. That with the decades, the racism start to show itself. I mean, if there is people with conscience, and I'm sure there is, and if people of conscience in the CIA, for example, who have all tools to find out all of my interaction. I know some of it are a little bit unacceptable. I'm not going to say extreme, crossing the line. But if they see all of the comments, since in my YouTube only, leave the other. I had my Facebook and Twitter before and things like that. Facebook and Twitter. Before I come now. Just the YouTube, that's it. And I didn't use the Facebook and Twitter for not allowing them to accuse me that I'm Daesh or something. Only the YouTube. This is my reason. If it's acceptable, this is between me and myself. The YouTube, yeah. The YouTube, there is a lot of comments and a lot of videos, and at the beginning, since 2015, there is a lot of attacks against me. It explained that the racism is not against anyone except the native Ishmaelians and what's called Gulf states. And who's helping it? Even the President of the United States of America, with announcing something about Lujain. He do not know, or he might know, but definitely, directly and indirectly, he is helping and putting this pressure of racism, racial discrimination against the natives in the Ishmaelian territory. But he doesn't want to see this. They don't want to see this, with respect right now. This princess, which is the wife of the second son of Prince Charles, His Highness, the son of Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth, his wife, the actress, an American now, she met Lujain. They don't know. When I said that there is some African working with the forces of Saudi Arabia, and also Ishmaelian and things, who kill Ishmaelian natives, because there is some videos as well, because they have, because they are terrorists and things like that. Ishmaelians are in Iraq as well. Part of Iraq is considered the in the Torah, you can see where the Arabs used to have their tents. I mean, I'm just relating myself to the Torah, which is manipulated and corrupted like a whole Bible and Injil. Okay, who is it? Who attacked them? American attacked them and raped their rights with the English and the almost 34 country on planet Earth. So there is resistance. Someone would say, well, the resistance. Well, look at Ireland and England. I mean, don't take me wrong. Irish people are a wonderful people. There is bad from all nations. I have dealt since I come here to England, and even before, teachers and things like that, with Irish people. Among them, and church people, wonderful people. You cannot even imagine how wonderful they are, men and women. In English and others in Scotch, definitely, and from Europe and also from Australia who come here and America. I saw some American wonderful people, white and others. But just look what Irish people did. Just to get rid of the English people. They fucked the English. I'm sorry to use this term. I mean, in Manchester, just 3 miles from here, or 5, maybe, no, it's not more. Almost 9 miles from here to the center of Manchester. Uh, do you know what happened? A big bomb by the Irish people. Not the Irish people with respect, by a group among the Irish IRI or something like this. I mean, there is a joke even about Peter, Saint Peter, is he? That he's protecting the gates of heaven. Of course, whatever. This is the crap that you bring a human being at the gates of heaven. And this joke is saying, please don't delete the video, that the Irish came to him and they said, we want to enter. And Saint Peter said, no, you're doing a lot of bombs and things. Who said this joke to me? An Irish person, by the way. And then they said to him, they said, we're not. We wanted to get out and ask all those in the heaven inside to get out. It's because we're gonna bomb the fucking place up. Listen. I'm just explaining the issues. I respect you all. You're a wonderful people, Irish, English, whatever. No, serious. Among you, of course, there is crap among every nation. let's continue. Okay. I mean, look. Okay, fine. Let's just regard this because it's sensitive. Yeah, I know. To some people, okay, outside. Let's go to France, South France, and North Spain. People are revolting for no reason. Now the Irish will angry. I mean, not enough reason the way there is reason to revolt in Iraq and do some terrorist things, or even the Ismaili Treaty. I'm explaining here. Hello, you understand me? And a black person, there is a lot of working with the force. I mean, one of it, killing those natives from the Arabian Peninsula, and he's shooting them dead. I mean, it's not enough the shit that they are dealing with. So many natives there. How can I explain this point? I'm not saying all. There is black people who are wonderful people who are in jail. There is scholars who are in jail right now, black scholars. So, yes, you can say, if I am gonna say, it's a different story. I mean, here in England, there is a lot of, I remember a wonderful lady, who lost her brother in a police station because they beat him or did something. She had a lot of videos. There, I mean, if you go to some certain places and how the non-Ishmaeli are lying about the truth about the Ishmaeli land. Well, the Ishmaeli people accepted they are part of the Muslim nation. I'm not saying they're above or below, and the real Israelis are among them. But I mean, there is privacy there. خصوصية بالعربية. In Arabic, خصوصية. Why people are and there is truth and lies. Why everyone is. So do you see? There is different. What I am trying to say here in the video, that the slaves. I mean, there was no racial discrimination, and until now against black. If you're gonna talk about racial discrimination, There is cases and incident, and equality must be observed. Of course, of course, of course. Especially as Muslims, we are all equal. But I mean, look at my brother Marwan. I have more penis. Is there any black person in Saudi Arabia or Gulf state without a penis? Don't say that he just chopped his penis without a reason. Okay, the African style is it's different from the Arabs. I mean, model, for example. Is there any women, black women, by a monarch that he sound like the prince calling my sister a slave, Jariya? A black, did they do this to the black by the video to humiliate? Jariya Charamil. I'm sure that there is a lot of black people who enjoy this scene because the racism is filled in their souls. Because they look at, I mean talking about Black Lives Matter, not Black Lives Matter, after seeing all of these movies about the blacks and things like this and rob, and it's making even the black in the Arabian Peninsula. I mean, I remember myself in Tabuk, and I started seeing some blacks and a neighbor called Sultan walking like if they are in New York, and the natives, yani, and even their families didn't like it because they were this is the rubbish that come from America, and we cannot speak to say this is the Ismailian territory. There is, I mean, look at Al Maktoum, look at his daughter Latifa, look what he's considered this a shameful thing, but he's a Dubai and monarch. When you go to my brother, my father Sultan, for example, we have no authority whatsoever, no money, no income for free, no support from the government. Lies, they lie. Nothing. Who is the victim of racism? Yes, you were a slave because your own people in Africa sold you. Do not lie. And when you come to the Arabian Peninsula, the Islamic atmosphere after Muhammad is not to cut your balls. If it happens, maybe by the Turkish. No, the Ismailian used to bring a wife for yourself. And they used to use the term, it's wrong, but I'm just explaining, to use the term abid, which means slave, to the servants. They never rape or have sex with black women for a cultural reason. There might be some cases, like even among the monarch, there might be some cases, like Antar bin Shaddad, but you can see how the society is refusing it because Israelites are among them. And I mean, if you go to Jehovah's Witnesses, how they interpret some of the verses in the Bible, saying that the blood shouldn't be interacted between a human and other. I have explained that this is their lack of knowledge. Do not explain to them that there is a lot of manipulation with the interpretation. And the Latinos didn't understand this because they have no bloodline at that time in comparison to the Israelis and who were merged with the Ishmaelians, and the Ishmaelians way of living that my bloodline shouldn't interact with your bloodline. I can interact with them, and I think it's good for the Ishmaelian because I mean it is not a rule in Islam. It's not a rule in Islam. But people who are not Ishmaelian, if they are there without any announcement, even if they are Muslim, of course, they shouldn't be non-Muslim and settle there. Otherwise, the hellfire level will be worse to them thereafter. They question this. Whatever. Question yourself. Without announcement by people who are like me, not now, before. Now I'm tired. That explain that there is certain rules for this place and a certain history. These people will cross the line and start bringing damage to the nation of Islam as well. I mean, look at Jeddah. If you are a real respectable Muslim, and if I, for example, let's say, let's say that not I, you had the opportunity to see everything in Jeddah. I'm mentioning Jeddah. I can mention Qatif, and I can mention Ahsan, I can mention Manama, I can mention Jeddah because it's 60 mile or 50 mile. No, 45, Al-Haram, 30 mile, 45 mile from Mecca. Okay. As a Muslim, do you accept what's happening in Jeddah there? Or maybe some, no, of course. These people, they are Muslims, okay, but I mean, if there is Darul Islam, Khilafah Islamiyah, there is even certain laws in the Hadith that you would be asked to leave this place and go and melt with the Egyptian wonderful civilization, which is a Muslim now, to God Almighty, or the Iraqi, or the Syrian, or other, because there is certain rules that must be. I understand for a person who is, for example, calling himself a Jew, who is an Ashkenazi or a Flasher from Africa. I mean, look at the Flashes. Flasher coming and killing the natives, Middle Eastern, Holy Landiers, Palestinians, who among them real Israelis, Flasher African. Look at the African that come by the American army, and English and other, and come and kill native Iraqis. You understand me? Who is the victim of racism, honestly, in the Arabian Peninsula or in the Holy Land? I mean, I wonder how could you support the so-called Israeli state and Netanyahu, except if you must announce yourself as a racist person. I understand, but pretend. How could Rothschild, Eastern European, Shimon Peres, this Goyim, how would they recognize, I mean, this point, if they are bringing the wrath of God and they got nothing to do with Judaism, a so-called Christian, just bothering us with the cross and the cross, and he is still announcing that the so-called Christianity, which is adopting salvation, is related to the Messiah. 6th century, and refusing to understand how wonderful, how lovely, how gentle Muhammad was. They just, and believe me, I see a lot of comments, and it's hard, it's harsh. Someone who is no longer, he is a so-called Shiite, with a great respect to you all, those who used to be so-called Shiite and become Christian. Some of them doesn't want to interfere. Just, I want to be a crusader or Christian. I don't want Islam because I had enough with the so-called Shiism. And he doesn't understand what's Islam, unfortunately. But some of them, he used to be a so-called, I'm not lying, a so-called Shiite. And he left Islam, he went to the West, and he started attacking me. Now, I put some comments, honestly, to be fair, exposing the cross, okay, to be fair. And then he start, and I add to this point things related in the same comments about Aisha, that she died virgin. And he attacked me and he said, how come? She had sex with Muhammad, listen to this, and she betrayed Muhammad while he's alive, listen to this. And he said, after Muhammad, she used to have sex with many men, and one of them is Uthman, the third Caliph. Because the so-called Shiite always assault her, and okay, peace be upon her, the mother of believer, the Virgin Aisha. And she never had children, by the way. She lived 5 years with Muhammad, and after 5 years, she lived half a century. She's the only youngest virgin wife of Muhammad, and God Himself, the creator of existence, the owner of this divine plan and all destinies, He said, I want you to marry this girl, Aisha, because she will be a teacher after your death, and she will protect Islam, will protect your grave, and bring all of the conditions that will protect the ground of excuse. حماية مقتضى إقامة الحجة. Aisha المؤمنين. Easy and simple in Arabic. And I don't know. I as an Israelite, I don't know from where to the so-called Hindus and Hinduism. And do you have nothing to do with the Hinduism? And there is a lot of women and accusation and screaming and what do you mean by Hinduism? How many sects you want to call it? How many faith? The so-called Buddhists and other. Atheists, the atheists who doesn't, the communists, look what they're doing. I saw Putin walking with those Orthodox church leaders. Lenin, you have killed a lot of them and prosecuted. Now you want them back, Mr. Putin, and you're going to the church in Syria and doing like this after you killed a lot of Syrian people, natives. By the way, I'm not saying all black, be careful, racist in the Arabian Peninsula, but among the blacks, go to Oman. Do an investigation with your conscience. And go, okay, Saudi Arabia is I want Saudi, but now you can go to Oman, for example. Okay, Kuwait. And let's check their backgrounds, what do they think, how do you look at the Ishmaelians. If you are saying that you are part of the Ishmaelian, then comply. Don't lie. Don't try to change things that will bring darkness. Some of those slaves, I remember some of these slaves came at the 40s. There was, unfortunately, in the 20s of the last century, a big portion of slaves came. I don't know why and how, but they come, I think, after Saudi Arabia and the oil. I remember there is a lot of old men who used to say that in Jeddah, and even in the eastern side of the Arabian Peninsula, in ships, in Bahrain, big number. But can you say that they were a victim of a racial discrimination? No. I mean, just compare the situation. There must be cases, individual cases, but in compare what happened to the African by themselves in Africa. Well, they are not Arabs. Maybe they are Berber or other, or Tawariq, or other ethnic group within the Africans. But definitely they are not native Arabs. So you don't assault the Arabs. They are, you understand me? And there is even among the Berber who were enslaved, by the way, to be honest with you. I mean, if you go and study things in the Mazig, yeah. And even in China, there is some sort of slavery. In India, even based on the law which they consider, some groups of them, and many, believe that the society is I mean, in Islam, I mean, look at Saudi Arabia. There is a black person who become the Imam of Mecca. But there, no, shouldn't lead any type of prayer because he's lying, he's below. But no, even in the Ishmaelian, by the way, the Ishmaelian tribes, there is some blacks who used to have good voices and recycle Quran better than the Sheikh himself, and they used to make imam, become the imam. Some of the group of the tribes used to are more religious than others. The blacks always the imam. So you look at it, this group. Now, slavery is wrong. There shouldn't be any slavery whatsoever, definitely. But no, this is the Ishmaelian territory, and it's for the Ishmaelian. And Ishmaelian territory is not only what's called Saudi Arabian Gulf State. Now we go Iraq, South Jordan, and Sinai. And as an Israelite, the Holy Land, with the Islamic rules, should return back to its people, not the stealers. And if you are gonna even gonna start mentioning about racial against black people, if there is, I'm not gonna say there is none, because I will be asked at the judgment day. Definitely there is individual cases against black or other, definitely. But if we are gonna study the racial discrimination, real victim, may Allah protect us, from many aspects, concerning understanding history, concerning right now, cultural things, truth about people, I think the racial discrimination which creating insanity is against the Ishmaelians. Wallahi, I'm not protecting the Ishmaelian, but I'm just saying the truth. The racial discrimination from the agents, the monarch, and the non-Ishmaelians, and even from the blacks themselves. Racial discrimination in the media, and the way they are interacting with the pressure from the West. Even when we talk about women's rights, things are liberal and secular. The racial discrimination is against the loving, beautiful, good native in the Arabian Peninsula. Oh, Ishmaelian among them real Israelis. Humans are all equal. No human should be in pain. No human should be a victim of racial discrimination. No human should lose his penis. And no human should be humiliated based on his culture. No human should live a life for a goal and give everything and then be fucked like me. Well, it's almost 18 how many, 15 years or 14 years? That's, decades and something. Well, I worked hard for something and I was fucked. You understand me? And no woman should be enslaved. And no one should be all white, black. And all should be Muslim. All should recognize that there is no creator of this existence except Allah. And He is the only God worth worship. I have mentioned it. And Muhammad is definitely his final messenger. And if you're an atheist, you need to protect yourself from being racist and understand what's happening in the Middle East and show respect to a gentleman that you're worth a shit in comparison to. I'm talking about what? This is not a good way to explain about Muhammad. I'm sorry, I'll put it. Show respect to a gentleman who is filled of love and care and mercy. And even the Quran itself said, لو كنت إيش? God said, لو كنت غليظ وقلبك شديد لانفضوا من حولك. In Quran, لانفضوا من حولك, which means that if you were terrible person, Muhammad, like the majority of the tribe at that time, and definitely outside middle the Ishmaelian territory, the nations, they are worse in cases and things. But Allah says, saying, if you were not a nice, wonderful person, Muhammad, in the Quran itself, those people wouldn't come and just hug you and become a circle around you. Because Muhammad, this is how it is. Even when he died in Medina, it is not even a matter for a lot of women, a matter of religion and believing of Muhammad. This is verses of Quran, and God, when he talked to him and say, "You innaka ala khuluqin azim," your manners is just a great manners, oh Muhammad. Now it cannot be that Muhammad is saying this and he's killing people and everyone saying, "Oh, the manner, man." No, of course. How women, men, weaks just gather around because he's a messenger, Muhammad. That's it. He's inspired by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I make him whispered or inspired. Inspired, I think. Whispered, they say, from the devil. Okay. Inspiration from God, from A to Z. Understand? Muhammad, peace be upon him. And at the same time, because the history is recording so many terrible things that the Ishmaelians have committed, unfortunately. And the real Israelis, my ancestors, and some of them, not the majority, accepted Islam. But at the beginning, terrible in slavery, the way they dealt with women, terrible things. Yes, the history is recording all of this rubbish, how they cut the balls of children of the slaves. And Muhammad didn't like this. People just look at the Ishmaelian and neglect the fact that in Egypt worse used to happen before 14th century. In Persia worse used to happen in Persia. In India as well, and even after and before, and even last century. And terrible things in Africa as well. So you don't just bother us every time a native Arab Ishmael, you used to enslave, you're bad to women, you're bad people, you're not good. Look what you did at the time of Muhammad. Even look at the native Arab Ishmaelian, they attacked him with the stones at the beginning because they like slavery and they like bad things. They're racist. Look how they dealt with the Roman before and the Belgian. No. Wake up. What used to happen in other nations worse. But the history is clearly recording all of this nonsense that the Arab used to do. Definitely Muhammad is a wonderful angel of peace and love, peace be upon him. Definitely from A to Z. If there is any bad reaction among the Muslim world, you check yourself. If you're going to talk about racism, I'm explaining to you who's the victim, who's the racist. Of course, definitely among the black, there are wonderful men and women, wonderful teachers. Either they are Saudis or from other Gulf states, or from those who are foreigners. I mean, there is foreigners, Sudanese and other wonderful people among them, but just don't bother us. There is at the end cases, an incident, individual incident that is terrible, and no black or white should deal with any, or natives or Asian, or deal with this. This video is just to explain that you have no right to say, look at Saudi, they used to have slaves at the 60s. No. I mean, one word, I'm not going to say any other word. Were there any resistance in the Ismailian territory when King Faisal said that he will be forced to change the society, free in slavery, so that they would have a chair in the United Shitty Nation, whatever? No. As an institute. No resistance whatsoever. The people said, we will not. So, fine. They are servant. Some of the old men used to say, but what if they want to continue here and be helping me, for example? Or just want to live at the neighbor and bring gahwoon. I mean, give coffees and things. Some of those who are rich. Gahwajiyah. Until now you'll find them. Yeah, no, the sheikhs used to come to them and say, sheikhs, just, they are not slaves. I mean, you don't own them. Fine. The sheikhs, the natives just, okay, I don't own them. That's it. And I have this amount of money, not small amount of money, but with some of them used to lie. Some of them used to go and ask some Africans who are not even, they are freed, and say, come and write your name at that time. Say that you are a slave, so that they would give me money and I give you. So you understand me? He received, for example, 200 or 300 or 400 pound or 500 or 1,000 or whatever. And they would say, write your name as a slave for me, okay? And when they give me this amount of money, I'll give you your portion of money. What do you think? Do you understand me? Do you understand what happened at the 50s and 60s? It don't bother me. The native Arab used to live a hush life in the desert. Hush. And when the oil come, we didn't use it. We didn't use it. The so-called Zionist movements, the so-called Zionists, which have nothing to do with our mountain Zion, is a terrible dark. These so-called Christian and the so-called,